Empowering people and inspiring change. My name is Melissa Blen, and I am the founder of Epic Love, cultivating self-love, freedom, and purpose all around your mental, your emotional, and your physical well-being. It's been a while since I've done one of these YouTube videos to really share with the world my message. And I always like to say, my pain is my purpose, and my mess has ultimately been my message. And my testimony is my truth. So today I'm going to share my recent interaction with psilocybin, aka magic mushrooms. As you all know, I have been in wellness for over 20 years now. And to share a small snippet of why I dove into wellness 20 years ago, it was because my pain became unbearable. My physical pain at that time. And being in an environment raised as a little girl with addiction, with verbal abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. All of that paved the way to self-suffering, being a victim, complaining about my circumstances, and ultimately getting diagnosed with cancer by the time I was 18 years old. So my pain has become my purpose. It's because I finally, at one point in my life, decided I wanted to be radically responsible for my story and what I wanted to create in my life. So the last year, I want to reflect really quick. My belief system around psychedelic medicine, aka magic mushrooms, and anything that you would perceive as a psychedelic. It could be bufo, which I experienced as well this year, magic mushrooms, anything that would alter my state of consciousness. I had a very strong belief of why not to do that. And one of those main resistance that I had around plant medicine was my dad was an addict, and so was my mom. And my dad was addicted to cannabis as well as addicted to cocaine. So being in an environment where drug abuse was very predominant for me, I had a limiting belief, and I had made the decision that if I ever were to explore any of that, my fear ultimately is I would become an addict just like my parents. So I had this very strong resistance to ever even entertaining doing any type of plant medicine. And again, the plant medicine that I chose to dive into this year was aka psilocybin, magic mushrooms, and bufo, which is an indigenous frog, which is one of the strongest DMTs on the planet. So why? Why did I make the decision to finally open and allow the exploration of another alternative healing modality? Well, fact, last year, Johns Hopkins University raised up to $17 million to start researching on the power of psychedelic medicine in healing PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And so with psychedelic medicine in the last 10 years being reintroduced into the mainstream, there is a lot of healing modalities that this medicine can be. Let's do some research on it when it comes to trauma. Let's do some research on it when it can come to depression. Let's do some research on it for anxiety. So being in wellness for as long as I have, I feel it's my responsibility to explore alternative methods when it comes to healing. So I have explored many different modalities in the last 20 years, from personal training to being a holistic nutritionist to Reiki to acupuncture to sound therapy to NLP. I'm a master practitioner working with the mindset, to breath work. The last 2 years of really diving into somatic therapy to breathe trapped energy and trauma from the body, to now spending the last year diving into the power of psychedelic medicine. So I'm going to share briefly about my experience with this powerful healing medicine, aka magic mushroom. So mushrooms, psilocybin, for me, my journey with them, I started in the beginning of this year, microdosing. So for me, when I made the decision to start microdosing, it was to help me in certain environments manage my anxiety. And when I say manage my anxiety, it's putting myself in situations that normally would cause my body to go into a state of panic. And for me, that panic was shaking. The panic was heart racing. The panic was staying so busy in doing things to not sit with the discomfort of the anxiety in my body. And ultimately, to allow myself and my body to feel safe in an environment that I had no control over. Let me repeat that. I made the decision to start microdosing to working with my anxiety, specifically in environments where I had no control over, so I can sit with that discomfort. And for me, it was predominantly in relationship with men, in relationship with a partner, and also traveling or being around large crowds of people. I never really realized the anxiety that my body had compounded over many, many years. So when I started microdosing, I started to know a vast difference in my physical state. More calm, more peace, more mental clarity and focus, more going with the flow, more just acceptance of a situation for what it was, not necessarily needing to change it or fix it, but just allowing it for what it was. I knew there was a difference with microdosing when I had my first experience shortly. It was around, I want to say, April or May. I was sitting at lunch with my mother, and my mom started crying profusely, talking about her own pain and her own suffering. And I could feel her anxiousness in her body just fighting it. The old Melissa would have rushed the conversation, would have attempted to fix it or change it or do something. But I got up and I went and I sat next to her and I held her. And I just held her. And I said, I'm here. And I love you. And it was that moment I knew the power of the mushrooms. I knew predominantly this medicine was going to help me with my message. So fast forward to now. I've been working through the layers of the suppression that my body and my mind have been in for many, many years of certain emotions. And one of them was sadness, depression, and grief. And when I made the decision to sit in my first assisted therapy session with the psilocybin, I reached out to a woman by the name of Christy Rose. And Christy Rose is a psilocybin assisted therapist. And what that means is she comes in and she administers the mushrooms, and she ultimately will hold space in the journey which for me was about 5 hours. And she guides me and she supports me through the process and navigates the space for me prior to, in the medicine, and then after the journey. I can't speak enough about the way that this woman showed up in such safety, support, laughter, dancing, and continued support through this process for me. So Christy, thank you so much for being a guide for me on this journey with psilocybin. So my intention when I sat with the medicine was, I'm ready to trust and love again. I'm ready to learn how to feel safe in the presence of masculine. I'm ready to relinquish being so independent on myself. I'm ready to have a healthy codependent, let me rephrase that. I'm ready to have a healthy interdependent relationship with a masculine man. Because I'm now in the place physically, financially, emotionally ready. Help me to see what I need to see, feel what I need to feel in order to trust and love again. And in my mushroom journey, I got just that. I got to see the shadow parts of my human psyche where for many, many lifetimes, depression, sadness, manipulation of men, all of that was so familiar for me. And it was dark, but it felt normal. Fact, my mom has been on antidepressants my whole life. Fact, my dad was an addict my whole life and depressed. Fact, my mother manipulated men to get attention and validation and to get what she wanted. Fact, sadness was a predominant feeling for both of my parents. So the shadow that I got to look at in this beautiful journey is also a part of me. I've chosen men that I could manipulate to get what I want. I chose to sit in misery and depression and sadness because I thought that was normal and it felt comfortable. But interesting enough, when I felt that shadow come in, I placed my hand on my heart and my hand here in the ceremony. And I said, I can love you, AKA those parts. But I get to set a boundary. And I get to say no more. And as soon as I did this and put my hand up, I all of a sudden saw this 5-year-old little boy coming into my sphere. And that 5-year-old little boy is my partner right now that I've just started dating about 2 months ago. And it was his 5-year-old energy self with his arms up, filled full of joy and love, and was like, I'm ready to play and I'm ready to love you because you love me. And it was this open-heartedness and it was this ease and this effort. And it was like, oh my God, it's right in front of me. And it was there. And that was the love of that inner child that I got to see and that I got to feel. The other loud healing that I got in this ceremony was at one point I felt my father, who has crossed over. I felt him holding me in his arms, and I heard him say, because I'm not going to be able to walk you down the aisle in this life when you get married, promise me that the man you marry will be able to hold you just like this in all your sadness and in all your grief, because he'll still love you and be there for you. And I cried and I cried and I wept and I wept. And all I ever wanted my whole life, I'm 40 years old, was to be seen and to feel safe for the feminine part of myself, the nurturing, the emotional, the loving part of myself, to be seen for my sadness, for that fear, and to be held by the masculine and not judged and not shamed and not criticized. And in my mushroom journey, my dad saw that and all of that in me. And now with this medicine that I just got to experience, I am capable of holding all of that within myself and showing that now to the world, saying me too, and loving those parts, especially in my new relationship. I get to love that part of him. I get to hold him in unconditional love and not judge him, because I'm not judging myself anymore. I get to play. I get to love. I get to dance. I get to eat the fucking chocolate cake, which I got to do in my mushroom journey. You see, psilocybin has the ability of taking us to altered states of consciousness to heal certain layers of our psyche that we've held on to, that have kept us stuck physically, mentally, and emotionally. I am so grateful that I made the decision as a part of my healing journey to have my experience with psilocybin. And I'm here to say, you are the medicine. I merely may be your coach someday, or your guide. Christy was my guide that day, but I'm the medicine. Everything that I need to heal is right here. Sometimes we just need a little help to pull away all of the stories, all of the blocks, all of the pain, and to sit with it and love it and forgive those parts so we can show up in this world trusting in love, because that's what we're all here to do, is ultimately trust and love. Because you see, trust is the question, love is the answer. Trust is the question, love is the answer. I'm so grateful for you, Christy Rose, for being one of my mere guides in this life. I'm grateful to my new partner who is showing up doing this dance with me in love and trust. I'm grateful to all of my clients who show up to do this work consistently, learning how to reparent your own inner child with love and discipline, with joy, with self-care, with emotionally regulating our emotions. If you are interested and want to know more about psilocybin, drop me a message, send me an email. I would be more than glad to connect you to more educational information about the power of psilocybin and how it can ultimately heal parts of your human psyche so you feel love and return to love. Have a great day.